In this video, I'm giving you 6 of my best tips so that you can increase your kill-death ratio overnight. If you practice and implement these tips, there's really no possible way your KD won't improve. Now, don't worry about where your KD is currently at. Just use these tips and that number will be sure to go up. A couple of these tips I don't believe I've ever shared with you guys before, so be sure to stay tuned throughout the video. If any of you guys are new here, just know my channel centers around helping you guys improve at Apex Legends. So really, without anything further, let's dive right into these 6 tips. Tip number 1, don't land directly onto a bunch of teams. Now, this is a sure way to stack up your deaths. The things you want to consider when you're dropping are how many teams are landing here, how big is this point of interest that we're going to, and are we going to be late to this drop? Because if a team or two beats you to the drop, it's obviously not good. They're probably going to get the weapons before you, and you're dead right when you land. With any battle royale, there's obviously RNG, and especially with the loot. So when there's more people, that means there's a less chance of getting a weapon or even 2 of them. Smaller POIs with more teams off drop are only going to limit your RNG with the loot. So be smart, look to contest a team or maybe 2, but try to secure the weapons first. That should always be your priority. No more landing on top of players hoping to punch them out, because that's just not a sustainable strategy in Season 11, especially if you're trying to improve your KD. Now, I know a lot of us love to go fragment, but I gotta be real here. If any number of those buildings look too hot, I simply just don't go there. And it's not that I'm worried about taking them out or not taking them out. It just becomes an RNG game. I look for the safer drop nearby, secure 2 weapons, and then look to push. Every drop is unique, but you gotta find that balance of not putting yourself in between 5 teams in one fragment building, but also be close enough to early game fights where getting those kills doesn't require as much work, because usually early game loot isn't too great, so those kills are generally a bit easier to stack up. Tip number 2, be aggressive versus teams. You guys want more kills and less deaths? Then you gotta be aggressive. Playing super passive in most lobbies just won't avail you kills, at least not enough to make a huge difference. And I know a byproduct to this is players are hoping to find the perfect fight, but the reality is most fights aren't going to go down like that. So you and your team want to be pushing the majority of fights, particularly in public matches. If you guys have decent guns with enough ammo, then start looking for the right opportunities. This is not only the best way to get a ton of experience where it really matters, but it will also eventually pay off with you having a more positive KDR. Before I get into tip number 3, don't forget to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. This helps my video out tremendously, and if you want to see me skateboarding, well, I threw in a clip of me doing so at the end of the video, so check that out if you're interested. Tip number 3, get comfortable with your settings and sensitivities. Now, this tip is ultimately here so you can feel comfortable trying to improve all aspects of your gameplay, like improving your KD, getting more wins, or reaching that next rank that you're going for. If you aren't comfortable with your sensitivity or your settings, this could be seriously hindering your game. If you aren't worried about this, then it obviously shouldn't apply to you. But I know there's a ton of players out there who think they need to switch stuff up week after week. But you gotta be careful switching too often. Just like with most things in life, you wanna find a balance here. Give yourself time to adjust to any recent settings or sensitivity changes, because if you've been playing on a certain sense for a while and then you switch it up, well, obviously it's gonna be foreign at first and you may lose easy fights, but if you had a good reason for switching in the first place, then you gotta ride it out. Give yourself a week or 2 to adjust, and if it doesn't work, no worries. There's plenty of other settings and sensitivities out there that you can try. But ultimately, once you find something that works, don't try to switch it up. Tip number 4, you got to be strategic. This is my favorite tip to talk about. This one is similar to tip 1 and 2, but it's going to be a bit more specific, and this is what usually separates the good from the great in Apex. It's always going to be easier to develop and execute a strategy with a squad versus when you solo queue. The research that has been done into the average random teammate in Apex has come back inconclusive. In other words, they're usually never thinking what you are, and they probably don't know what you do in that exact moment. So it's going to be really difficult for you guys to be strategic with your randoms. But good news for you, I have 2 tips here, and each apply to if you play with a squad or if you go the solo queue route. Now, if you're solo queuing with randoms, try to take fights with them and look to use them to your advantage. See, when a 3-man team finds a solo, they get hyper aggressive, but when they see 3, they play it differently, at least at the beginning. So you can bait your randoms in a lot of fights. Baiting isn't a bad thing because the goal is still to win the fight. But the reason I bait randoms at times is so that I'm the last one knocked, or at least I try to be. I trust myself more than my randoms, and usually if I get knocked, the fight is over. So I try to develop angles where my teammates are potentially engaging, where I can catch the enemy with their back turned to me. Things like that. If you fight with numbers, you'll usually win, but when you're outnumbered, you're probably going to lose. Now, if you're playing with a squad, you guys need to be quick and concise with your decision making. No balking here. One of the keys here is playing close to one another if you are trying to take out a team that is playing in a similar manner. It's usually when teams get isolated and split apart that they start to lose fights more frequently, and then they blame one another, and then the games just go downhill for the rest of the evening. So play close to one another and look to take fights in an aggressive, concise manner. Tip number 5, thirst all downs. Well, I should probably make this thirst most downs. In other words, you got to capture on those knocks that you find. Get those eliminations. If you never get the elimination, you don't get the kill. I don't want some players to think that I mean just thirst every knock that you've ever got, and even if it means you're going to die, because obviously that's not the move. But if the coast is clear, yes, thirst that knocked enemy. Look for that armor swap if you need it during the fight. Look to grab some of their heals or ammo, whatever it may be. Another easy way to get free kills is if you pull up to a fight and you guys are the third party. And let's say there's already knocks on both sides of the fight. Well, if you take out one of the squads and the remaining team has 2 knocked opponents, well, you could thirst those knocks and still get the kills, because technically you eliminated the people that knocked them. So Apex then gives you those kills. And this is a smart way to get KP and ranked if you catch a good third party, or you'll even see pros do it in the ALGS because they know they need those kill points to rank higher in the standings. Third partying is an easy way to get a lot of free kills, but you've got to be careful here because generally when there's a third party, there could be a fourth or a fifth party as well. So what you just did to one team could easily turn around and happen to you in the next moment. Tip number 6, don't tilt if things go bad. In a game like Apex, it's fairly normal for a few bad games to happen in a row, which can result in some players getting extremely frustrated. But my friends and I know very well that if we get frustrated, whether we're playing solo queue or we're squatted up together, it's only going to continue to negatively affect the games we currently are in. So you gotta learn to brush all that stuff off, even though it's incredibly annoying when it happens. You gotta learn to go next and just kind of start fresh. If you can't do this, then it will continue to spiral you into a negative place and it will be tough to bounce back from it. You got to learn to shake off whatever thing just happened in the previous game and just focus on what's in front of you. There's a huge mental component to gaming and I feel like it's just not talked about enough, so that's why I make a point to mention it in some of my videos. Because when you really break it down, if you're getting competitive when gaming, then it's not too different from any other sport you may have played. Sports psychology is a real thing. It's not just something I created out of thin air. Apex is also a team game, so it's even more important to try to get you and your whole team on the same page with that mentality of being able to bounce back from a previous bad game. The last thing I have to say about KDR is it really doesn't matter in a battle royale. And what I mean is you could 3-stack pubs all day as a top elo player and just milk your stats, but that's not the point of this video. So don't get too hung up on the figure of what your KD is right now. Just focus on the tips I just mentioned because they fundamentally center around how you can get more kills. And that's really the whole point. If that happens, the positive KDR will follow. If you guys enjoyed this video or found it helpful in any way, I hope you'll consider subscribing so you don't miss out on my next upload. That's going to be it for me. Here's the clip of me skating. Peace.